On July 13, 2026, oil prices posted their biggest one-day jump in over 6 years. Brent crude surged more than 9% in a single session, closing at $83.30 a barrel. The trigger: President Trump's announcement that the United States would reimpose a full naval blockade on Iranian ports. Within a day, U.S. warships and aircraft were back in position across the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway that roughly a fifth of the world's oil passes through every day. For American drivers already watching prices at the pump, this wasn't a distant headline. It was the start of something that could reach their own wallet. Here's what we actually know. Now, to understand why this blockade matters so much, it helps to know how we got here. The roots of this crisis stretch back to February 2026, when the United States and Israel launched coordinated strikes on Iranian military and government sites, an operation that included the killing of Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, and several senior officials. In the chaos that followed, Iran responded by effectively closing the Strait of Hormuz, prompting a sustained U.S. military campaign to reopen it. By April 13, 2026, Washington had gone further, imposing a full naval blockade on Iranian ports, a campaign that has continued, with pauses and resumptions, ever since. Diplomatic efforts to de-escalate culminated in talks held in Islamabad. Those negotiations broke down, and on July 13, President Trump announced the blockade would resume. Within 24 hours, U.S. Central Command confirmed the blockade was back in effect, alongside a fresh wave of airstrikes targeting Iranian capabilities used against shipping in the strait. So what do we actually know for certain about what's happened since? According to U.S. Central Command statements, American forces have carried out strikes against Iran on multiple consecutive nights, targeting surveillance sites, drone and missile capabilities, and coastal infrastructure connected to attacks on commercial shipping. More than 20 U.S. Navy warships, including 2 carrier strike groups and an amphibious ready group, are confirmed to be operating in the Middle East. On the naval side, CENTCOM has confirmed at least one direct enforcement action. A Curacao-flagged tanker, the M/T Belma, was disabled by U.S. aircraft after it reportedly ignored warnings and attempted to reach Iran's Karg Island, a key oil export terminal. Iran, for its part, has claimed to have intercepted or struck U.S. and allied assets, including claims about tankers in the strait, though several of these claims have not been independently verified, and Iranian state media has a documented history of unverified claims during this conflict. Regionally, Kuwait's armed forces have confirmed responding to missile and drone threats entering its airspace, and Jordan's military has confirmed shooting down Iranian missiles that fell within its territory. On the market side, the numbers are unambiguous. Brent crude jumped from roughly $76 to $83.30 a barrel in a single trading day, its sharpest one-day percentage gain in more than 6 years. Now that we've laid out what's confirmed, let's look at why this situation matters beyond the headlines. The Strait of Hormuz isn't just another shipping lane, it's the narrowest choke point for one of the world's most essential commodities. Roughly a fifth of global oil consumption passes through it. That geography is precisely why both sides are fighting over it. For the US and its allies, keeping it open is treated as a matter of global economic stability. For Iran, threatening to close it is one of the few forms of leverage it has left after months of military losses. Energy analysts point out that the blockade's economic effect doesn't require the strait to be fully closed. Even the perception of risk, insurance costs rising, tankers rerouting, shipping companies pausing operations, is enough to push prices upward because oil markets price in uncertainty, not just confirmed disruption. Let's move now from military analysis to the economic consequences Americans are actually starting to feel. The most direct link for American viewers is at the gas pump. Crude oil prices are the single largest factor in what drivers pay for gasoline, and a jump like the one seen on July 13th typically takes 1 to 3 weeks to fully show up in pump prices, depending on regional supply chains. The U.S. Energy Department has not yet confirmed a specific national average increase tied to this event, so it would be inaccurate to state a precise dollar figure here. But historically, moves of this size in Brent crude have translated into increases of roughly 15 to 30 cents per gallon within a month, based on similar disruptions in past decades. Beyond gas prices, sustained elevated oil prices also raise costs across shipping, manufacturing, and air travel, sectors that eventually pass costs on to consumers. The Treasury Department has separately confirmed its escalating sanctions enforcement against Iranian oil smuggling networks, which adds another layer of pressure on global supply chains tied to Iranian exports. That's the economic side, but there are also direct military and human costs unfolding in real time. This conflict has not been without cost to U.S. forces. CENTCOM has confirmed that a U.S. service member was killed and another wounded during recent operations. the clearest reminder that this is an active, ongoing military campaign, not a symbolic show of force. Iran has separately claimed to have struck U.S. assets, including an alleged attack on F-35 hangars at Al-Azraq Air Base, though CENTCOM has not confirmed the extent of any such damage. These developments haven't stayed contained to just the US and Iran. Regional players are increasingly being pulled in. Kuwait and Jordan have both confirmed intercepting Iranian missiles or drones entering their airspace, illustrating how quickly this conflict can spill across borders, even when those countries aren't direct combatants. In Washington, lawmakers have discussed potentially folding Iran and Hezbollah into an existing bipartisan sanctions bill originally aimed at pressuring Russia over Ukraine, a sign that U.S. policymakers increasingly see these conflicts as strategically linked rather than separate crises. So where does this go from here? Let's look at what analysts are watching. Several trajectories are being discussed by analysts, and it's worth being clear about which are confirmed developments versus informed speculation. One scenario involves continued gradual escalation, sustained U.S. strikes combined with an enforced blockade without a full closure of the strait, keeping oil prices elevated but not sending them into extreme territory. A second, more severe scenario would involve Iran successfully disrupting a larger share of tanker traffic, which analysts warn could push Brent crude toward $100 or higher, though this remains speculative and not something confirmed. Sources currently project as the base case. A third possibility is renewed diplomatic engagement. A foreign ministry spokesperson has stated Iran currently has no plans for negotiations, but back-channel communications reportedly continue. It's also worth noting, Iran released an American woman who had been detained since December 2024, a gesture Trump publicly described as a sign of goodwill, a small but notable data point amid an otherwise escalating conflict. So pulling all of this together, what do we actually know for sure? What's confirmed? A U.S. naval blockade of Iran is back in effect. American strikes have continued for multiple consecutive nights, oil prices have already spiked sharply, and the human and military costs are real and ongoing. What remains uncertain? How long this phase of the conflict will last, whether it escalates toward a full closure of the strait, and how much further gas prices in the U.S. will actually rise as a result. For now, the clearest through line is this: a conflict thousands of miles away is already showing up in a very familiar place for American viewers: the price on the sign at their local gas station. The question worth asking is not just how this ends, but how much it will cost everyone watching before it does.